am so angry that you have caused on my family.
Visibly shaken, Pamela said the words that she wanted to say to Miller wouldn't be appropriate in public. She questioned the love Miller said he had for Patrice.
How could you love a person and you took her life? How? Is that love? Is that really love?
On May 13th, prosecutors say Jamere Miller wore a blonde wig, stalked and kidnapped Patrice Wilson as she ended her shift at Detroit Receiving Hospital. Investigators found Patrice's body in her car at her apartment complex in Novi.
She was walking to her car. That's it. That's all she was doing. She had just finished a long overnight shift at the hospital. The sun was barely up, and all she wanted to do was get home to her 7-year-old son. But she never made it, because someone was waiting for her. Someone who had been watching, planning, and waiting. And what happened next in that parking lot on the morning of May 13th, 2023, shocked the entire city of Detroit. Welcome back to Vile Crimes. If you are new here, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and click the bell icon so you never miss an episode. We cover the cases that need to be talked about, and today's case is one that genuinely shook me. Let's get into it. Detroit, Michigan, a city with a long, complicated history. It is a place built on hard work, resilience, and community. But like many major American cities, it has its dark side. Domestic violence homicides in Detroit have been a growing crisis for years, and in 2023 alone, 12 people were killed in the city in cases directly tied to domestic violence. Patrice Wilson was one of them, and her story did not start on the morning she was taken. It started long before that, in a relationship that her own mother described as toxic, with a man who simply could not let her go. So let me tell you about Patrice. Because before she became a headline, before she became a case number, she was a person. A real, full, beautiful person. Patrice Layota Wilson was 29 years old, a registered nurse at Detroit Medical Center's Receiving Hospital. By all accounts, she was the kind of person who made every room she walked into a little brighter. Her colleagues called her legendary. They talked about her laugh, her smile, her kindness. She was the kind of nurse who genuinely cared about her patients. And she was a mother, deeply devoted to her young son. Her coworkers said she never missed a goodnight FaceTime call with him, even on the nights she was working, even when she was exhausted. That tells you everything you need to know about who Patrice was. Now let's talk about Jamere Miller, because this story cannot be told without understanding exactly who this man was. Jamere Michael Miller was 36 years old, from Inkster, Michigan, which sits just outside of Detroit. And here is where it gets important. Miller was not just some random person. He was Patrice's ex-boyfriend. They had been together for roughly 3 years before she ended things. And the reason she ended things? Her own mother said it plainly. She knew he was toxic. She knew the relationship was not good for her. And she did what any strong woman would do. She walked away. But Miller would not let her walk away. And that decision would cost Patrice everything.
Jamere, you breaking in my house? Like, are you serious? You breaking in my house, Jamere?
Why would I break in your house?
Why are you at my door with gloves on?
Now I need you to really pay attention here, because this is where the story gets even darker. Jamere Miller did not just have a bad temper. This man had a criminal history that stretched back years. Gun charges, drug charges, assault, drunk driving, eluding police. Detroit Police Chief James White said it himself at the press conference after Miller's arrest. He called Miller a very violent person with a significant criminal history that included multiple arrests for domestic violence. So this was not a man who simply lost his temper one day. This was a pattern, a long documented pattern of violence. And here is the part that will truly disturb you. Patrice was not the first woman in Miller's life to end up in danger. Before Patrice, there was a young woman named Bianca Green. Bianca was 24 years old, a nursing student at Wayne County Community College, working at the Detroit Metro Airport. She and Miller had a son together, and in March of 2011, while she was 6 to 8 weeks pregnant with their second child, Bianca vanished. She was last seen on March 25, 2011, in Romulus, Michigan. She left behind her car, her clothes, her belongings, and her young son. She texted her mother 2 days after she disappeared, and then nothing. Complete silence. To this day, Bianca Green has never been found. Now here is what really gets me. After Bianca disappeared, Miller actually showed up at a Crime Stoppers press conference. He sat there holding their son and said, and I quote, "It's hard being a single father, and it's hard for me to tell him what's going on with her." He played the grieving partner in front of cameras. He was questioned by police but never charged. The case went cold, and for 12 years, Bianca's family lived with that pain and unanswered questions, while Miller walked free. 12 years later, he was doing the exact same thing to another woman. So let's talk about what happened on the morning of May 13, 2023, because the details of this crime are chilling. Patrice had just finished her overnight nursing shift at Detroit Receiving Hospital. It was around 7:40 in the morning. She was heading to her black 2020 Lincoln Nautilus SUV in the hospital parking lot. What she did not know was that Miller had been there for a while. Waiting, watching, and he had come in disguise, wearing a blonde wig, a hat, and glasses so the cameras would not immediately identify him. Think about that level of premeditation. This was not a crime of passion. This man planned it. As Patrice was getting into her car, Miller came up from the back passenger side and fired his handgun at her multiple times. She was shot inside her own vehicle. He then climbed into the driver's seat and drove away with her body still inside the car. Now, here is a detail that breaks my heart every time I think about it. Patrice was on the phone with a friend when it happened. Her friend heard her scream, and then the line went dead.
Jamere, you breaking in my house? Like, are you serious? You breaking in my house, Jamere?
Why would I break in your house?
Why are you at my door with gloves?
The moment that call dropped, people started looking for Patrice. The Wayne State University police were the first to get the report, and they immediately contacted the Detroit Police Department. Within hours, the homicide unit, the organized crime unit, and the major crimes unit were all activated. Detroit Police Chief James White made it clear that finding Patrice alive was the priority. Search warrants were executed across multiple locations, including Inkster, Garden City, and Novi. Surveillance footage from the hospital was pulled. Miller was identified relatively quickly as the suspect, and his photo was released to the public. But it was already too late for Patrice. On Sunday afternoon, May 14th, which was Mother's Day, her body was found in the trunk of her own SUV at the Pavilion Court apartment complex in Novi, roughly 30 miles from the hospital. She had multiple gunshot wounds. Her mother, Rosalind Livingston, had been speaking to reporters earlier that day, begging for her daughter to be found alive in time to celebrate Mother's Day with her son. Instead, she got the worst phone call of her life. The following day, Miller negotiated his surrender through his lawyer. He told police he was, quote, feeling the pressure of the investigation. And I want you to sit with that for a second. He did not turn himself in because he felt remorse. He turned himself in because he felt cornered. There is a difference. At his sentencing in November 2023, Miller's attorney read a letter he had written where he said he failed Patrice, failed their kids, and was ashamed. But here is what I want to ask you, and I genuinely want you to think about this. Is that remorse? Or is that just a man who finally got caught saying what he needed to say in front of a judge? Because Patrice's grandmother, Pamela Golden, was not buying it. She stood in that courtroom and looked directly at Miller and said, "How could you love a person and take her life? You ain't fit to live." And honestly, there are no words that could follow that. Miller pleaded guilty to second-degree murder and was sentenced to 35 to 60 years in prison. He will be 71 years old before he even becomes eligible for parole. The first-degree murder charge was dropped as part of the plea deal, which the family understandably struggled with. But justice, in whatever incomplete form it came, was served. The family did not stop there, though. On what would have been Patrice's 30th birthday, they filed a $200 million lawsuit against Detroit Medical Center, alleging that hospital security watched Miller lurking in that parking lot for hours and did absolutely nothing. A fellow nurse had even warned coworkers about the suspicious man on the premises, and security still did not intervene or lock the hospital down. Patrice's mother, who was herself a DMC employee, said it plainly. The system failed her daughter. 2 years later, Patrice's legacy is still very much alive. An organization called Nursing from the D created a scholarship in her honor, specifically for nursing students who are also mothers, because that is exactly who Patrice was. Her mom was present at the first ceremony, watching her daughter continue to change lives even after death. And then there is Bianca Green. Still missing. Still no body found. Still no charges filed in connection with her disappearance. Miller is in prison, but Bianca's family still has no answers. Her uncle said she would never have left her son willingly. That little boy grew up without his mother, and the man most people suspect is responsible is sitting in a cell convicted of killing someone else. If you know anything about the disappearance of Bianca Chanel Green, please contact Romulus Police or submit a tip to Crime Stoppers. Before I let you go, I want to leave you with something to think about. Patrice did everything right. She left the relationship. She rejected his gifts. She made it clear she was done, and it still was not enough to save her life. So what does that tell us about how we as a society protect women who are trying to escape dangerous relationships? Are restraining orders enough? Is law enforcement responding fast enough when women report obsessive and controlling behavior? And how many Bianca Greens are out there? Women who disappeared quietly, women whose cases went cold because the right person was never held accountable in time. These are not just questions for investigators. These are questions for all of us. If this episode hit you the way it hit me, please share it. Someone in your circle might need to see this. Like the video, subscribe to Vile Crimes if you have not already, and drop your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think Miller had anything to do with Bianca's disappearance? And do you think the 35-year sentence was justice enough for what he did to Patrice? Let me know. Until next time, stay safe, stay aware, and never stop asking questions.